أهلا وسهلا بكل الذين ينضموا للاستماع إلى راديو بلدي أول راديو عربي أمريكي ويعنى بقضايا العرب في المهجر. برامجنا في راديو بلدي كل يوم جمعة من 8 وحتى 9 صباحا مع ليلى الحسيني في بث حي ومباشر وعبر wnzk راديو 690 AM. صباح الخير بلدي، صباح الخير لكل مستمعينا.
Welcome to Radio Baladi, the first Arab, Middle Eastern, and American simulcast radio show. Radio Baladi is broadcast every Friday morning on WNZK 690 AM from 8 until 9 Eastern Time on Good Morning Michigan with Layla Al-Husseini. Our call-in number 248-557-3300. And now, stay tuned for the best radio talk show on Arab and American issues with your host, Layla Al-Husseini.
This is Dr. Sahar Khamis. Join me on the third Friday of each month at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be discussing some of the most important current political, economic, and social issues in my program, The Bridge. Good morning, everyone. This is your host, Dr. Sahar Khamis. Welcome to another episode on Radio Baladi on US Arab Radio. And our topic today is a very important topic. It is actually preparing and protecting our young Muslims, our American Muslim youth, in the midst of the rising wave of escalating violence and hatred. And with me this morning discussing this important topic are two community activists who have been very involved in this topic and actually able to give us some expert opinion on it. Officer Sharif Hidayat is a police officer with Montgomery County Police Department, and he's also a member of the American Muslim community. And Sister Nadia Hassan is a community activist and organizer, and she is the founder and president of the Young Leaders Institute. Welcome to the show, everybody.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for accepting the invitation and being with us this morning. So, Officer Sharif, I want to ask you the very same question I'm going to ask Nadia in a minute, which is actually, what are some of the causes, what are some of the reasons behind this wave that we have been witnessing recently? We have seen the death of, some young souls in our community, that has been very, very tragic and very traumatic. Shadi Najjar and then Nabra Hassanin, and there may be others in other communities or other counties or other states that we are not even aware of. In your own opinion, I'm going to ask Nadia the same question as well. What are some of the causes or the reasons behind this wave?
Part of it is because the Muslim community is now being exposed to things that are not typical of their community. What do I mean by that? Drug use, gangs, all these type of issues that are foreign to a Muslim community. In order to integrate into this society, that unfortunately also causes a drawback where you're also going to be exposed to things like that. And people in the Muslim community are unfortunately, because they don't partake in these type of things, the things that are haram to partake in, but their kids are being influenced in school. The parents are uneducated about what drugs look like. And that's why it's important to partner with your local police department to educate not only the kids already know about these things, but to educate parents and the social workers about the what drugs look like and the harms that they can have on a community. So it's really about, it's really about the associations that Muslims are, especially the youth, are finding themselves being exposed to, that they've not been exposed to before.
But if I just want to put something here on the table, Officer Sharif, maybe some of the listeners will say, the drug factor, maybe that's something that can affect all, different youth communities. And, but in the case of the Muslim American youth in particular, how much of this wave can we actually attribute to things like gang culture or drug, and how much of it can we actually attribute to the political environment and the social environment that the U.S. is going through right now?
Well, I think they go hand in hand. They're moving in parallel lanes. The problem is, if you want to talk about social causes, there has been a wave now, and this has nothing to do with the Muslim community, it has to do with the entire community, that we have now as a society excused drug consumption. We've made excuses for it. We've decriminalized it. So there's various aspects of policy that have affected the drug culture that has made it more, I had a Muslim sister come approach me the other day, and she said at the University of Maryland, of all places, there's a professor showing the benefits of marijuana consumption. So we're sending messages to the kids, and that's harm. And it's not necessarily always the substance itself. It's the crime associated with the substance. So you have murders as a result of a drug deal gone bad. So it was a robbery of the marijuana, but it led to a murder. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's not necessarily the consumption itself, but the affiliated crime associated with the narcotic.
So you all see it as linked to each other, that it's all interrelated or linked to each other somehow.
It's all connected, absolutely.
And of course, here, just to make it clear for the listeners, you're talking about those who were the attackers or the people who committed these atrocious, terrible crimes, being affiliated to gang culture or to drugs and so on and so forth. And that could be some of the reason why these crimes happen in the first place.
That's correct. And, you can have a Muslim brother or a young Muslim sister. They're just catching a ride with one of their friends. And it's their friend that has the drugs or is associated with that type of culture. And they're just caught in the crosshairs because they were unsuspecting. They had no clue. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Thank you. And Nadia, do you also agree with this analysis? Would you like to add something in terms of the causes of why we are seeing this heartbreaking phenomena and this rising tide that we are witnessing now?
Yes, definitely. I agree with what Brother Sharif has said, but I will say that, since 9/11, the rise in anti-Muslim bigotry has not slowed down. And so, of course, just the political environment in which we exist today, and it doesn't, our president right now, which I hate to call him that, but that's what he is, also is creating an environment that's exacerbating this issue. And he's fueling those who love to continue to divide our country. So there's a group of white nationalists or white supremacists, whatever you want to call them, who are out there basically, waving their flags that this is their country and it's not doing anything for our country other than othering everyone else. And so because of that environment, and to add to that, the Muslim community has been under attack, for quite some time now. And it's part of this American story of divisiveness and othering. And then there's an economic undertone here, which someone is benefiting from this divisive political environment. And I mean, there's a lot to unpack here in regards to the causes, but I would say, just like Sharif said, yes, these are pathways in which they are they are parallel and they are working side by side.
So just to recap on what both of you said here, there's so many different aspects, so many different sides for this coin. It's not just one side. There is the social aspect that involves things like the rise in gang culture and drug consumption, and that leads to the escalation of crime in general. And there's also the political environment, like you mentioned, Nadia, which actually involves Islamophobia and profiling and othering of certain groups and certain minorities. I think that would be also fair to say that it's not just about the American Muslim community. Other minorities have also had their fair share of maybe profiling or othering. Officer Sharif, from your work in the Montgomery County Police Department, have you also seen the effect of this kind of wave of social and political conditions affecting other members of maybe minority groups beside the American Muslim community?
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, sister, when we here at the Montgomery County Police, we don't really address the race, the religion. We address the behavior. So when we apply criminal law and we intervene to enforce criminal law, our number one purpose is to address the behavior. So I'm a little bit I can't add subjectivity to it. We're pretty objective about it. We analyze what has happened, whether it be and whatever type of incident it may be, and we say, well, did this rise to the level of violating the law, and then make the enforcement action. Now, do certain factors play into that? Socioeconomic factors, absolutely. Opportunities, absolutely. But in my close to 2 decades of enforcing the law, I can honestly say, at least here in Montgomery County, that we address behavior, or not people's race or religion.
Right. My question really was about people who come, for example, and say, my car has been, damaged, and somebody has put some kind of very insulting and offensive graffiti on my home. Somebody left a very bad, hate letter under my door. Things like that you have seen, for example, arise in minorities, like, for example, let's say Latinos or undocumented immigrants, people from different racial, ethnic background. Have you seen a surge in people who come to you with these types of complaints recently?
The answer is yes, but it's twofold. Not just because it's actually happening, but because we have facilitated as a department easing and making it very acceptable to report these types of incidents. So for example, you may hear that hate crimes increased 200%. Well, maybe community members are now feeling more comfortable reporting these things, and that's why you're seeing an uptick as well. And that's due to our efforts in going to these community meetings and say, please report these things. We document these type of incidents, and we investigate these type of incidents. So I think it's actually, the statistics may be a little bit skewed, because where one person may see, oh my gosh, we're having like 400% increase in hate crimes, the police department may look at it as, wow, we've actually sent the message that that the community feels comfortable in actually reporting these things. So these things could have been happening before, but they weren't reported. So they weren't quantified in a statistic. But now that people are feeling more comfortable because we're building partnerships with the community, whether it be the minority communities or the Muslim communities, whatever community you want to call it, they feel more comfortable reporting these incidents, and they are. I've seen it.
Okay, that's very interesting point. So there's a rise in hate crimes, yes, but at the same time, there's also a rise in reporting hate crimes. And just to mention quickly here, I'm also a commissioner with the Human Rights Commission in Montgomery County, Maryland, and we always encourage people and say, if you're a victim of a hate crime, please come forward and say that something happened to you. It would be helpful for others and for people to know what actually happens. We can best address it. And Nadia, do you agree with this line of analysis that Officer Sharif just shared now, that yes, there is an increase in hate crimes against different minorities, not just the American Muslim community, but there's also a rise in reporting and talking about these crimes and bringing them to the attention of law enforcement?
Absolutely. And actually, just about a week ago, I was in a forum where we were talking about this very thing. And I had given an example of how I was targeted by my own councilwoman back in 2011 when she had gone publicly and made a hate speech against the Muslim community, and she said some very egregious things, and one of which she was threatening the Muslim community to use the U.S. Marines, as what she said. I know a number of U.S. Marines who would be willing to give these terrorists an early meeting in paradise. And so because I stood up to her and started, pushing back publicly against the things that she was saying, she started targeting me personally in her speeches and calling me names on Facebook. But I didn't know where to go to report this. So even though I was, an activist at that time, I myself was found myself in a very vulnerable position, not knowing what to do or where to go to report the hate speech that she was spewing against me and against the Muslim community. So I definitely feel like today that yes, we are more aware of the importance of reporting hate crimes, hate incidences and hate speech, which all three are very different things. We are doing more in terms of educating our communities about the differences and the need to report. So I would say that, yes, I wholeheartedly agree with what Sharif is saying.
Absolutely. And, now there are places, like I said before, there is the Human Rights Commission, there is the Committee on Hate and Violence, and all of these resources. And now we are talking about the importance of bringing all of these resources to people's attention, so people are aware of the existence of these different venues and channels to actually report these hate crimes if and when they actually take place. We'll go for a short commercial break. Stay tuned. We'll come back again to this interesting conversation right after this commercial break. Stay tuned.
The Rama Relief Foundation provides humanitarian aid into areas inside of war-torn Syria, as well as aid to the refugees who have fled to the neighboring countries in the Middle East. The foundation offers food baskets, container shipment, mental health, education, soup kitchens, and more. Go to ramarelief.org or call 248-990-4247. Any donation amount made to Rama will go to sustaining many lives. Call now 248-990-4247. When it comes to reproductive medicine, IVF Michigan Fertility Centers are the recognized leaders. With locations in Bloomfield Hills and 5 other cities in Michigan and Ohio, IVF has experts in all aspects of the field. As a founding member of IVF Michigan Fertility Centers, Dr. Nicholas Shama is one of the leading reproductive endocrinologists in Michigan and Ohio. Dr. Shama has performed over 10,000 IVF cases and has helped thousands of couples fulfill their dreams of parenthood. American board certified in both obstetrics and gynecology and reproductive endocrinology and infertility, Dr. Nicholas Shama is a very caring, compassionate, expert physician that understands not only the medical but also the emotional toil of infertility on his patients. When it's time, get personalized care from Dr. Nicholas Shama at IVF Michigan Fertility Centers in Michigan and Ohio. Call toll-free 855-952-9600, 855-952-9600.
Are you going to start a restaurant or grocery store soon? Do you need floor plans and designs? Call Nadia Abood at 734-744-9796. Do you want to buy kitchen and restaurant equipment at discount prices? Call Nadia Abood now, 734-744-9796. New Concept Products and Design, the trademark of kitchen equipment. 5% discount on all purchases of $75,000 or more. New Concept Products and Design, new location, 31185 Schoolcraft in Livonia. Learn more at www.newconceptproducts.com. Call Nadia Abood, 734-744-9796.
Life for Relief and Development is a nonprofit charity that has been providing humanitarian aid and development to people and communities regardless of race, color, religion, or cultural background for over 22 years. When disaster occurs here or around the world, Life rushes to provide food, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. Life also has development projects that provide medical relief, water purification, educational programs, relief for orphans, and much more. Your help and support can greatly improve these efforts. All donations are tax deductible. For more information, please visit our website at lifeusa.org or call 248-424-7493. That's lifeusa.org, 248-424-7493.
حكي موجودة فهم في العين وافهم كمان في.
ومن بمثل خبرة الدكتور عماد نقاش أستاذ الطب وجراحة العيون في جامعة وين، خبرة طويلة في التعامل مع أمراض العيون وجراحتها، عمليات تعديل وتصفية النظر، إزالة الماء الأبيض والأسود الجلوكوما، وتصحيح النظر من آثار مرض السكر. كادر متخصص ومتدرب لخدمتكم، شعبة متخصصة للنظارات الطبية والهندسة اللاصقة، يقبلون معظم أنواع التأمين الصحي. زوروهم في عيادتهم الواقعة على جنار والناين مايل في مدينة هيزل بارك. للمواعيد اتصلوا على 248-336-3937 248-336-3937 أو عيادتهم في راجستر هولس. للمعلومات اتصلوا على 248-299-3937 248-299-3937.
This is Dr. Sahar Khamis. Join me on the third Friday of each month at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be discussing some of the most important current political, economic, and social issues in my program, The Bridge. On Radio Baladi, on America's Voice of the Arabs, WNZK 690 AM and WDMV 700 AM. Me this morning discussing this important and timely topic are Ms. Nadia Hassan and Officer Sharif Hidayat. Both are active in the Montgomery County community here in Maryland and very involved in this important topic in different capacities. And Officer Sharif, if I will just, ask you about also some of the tips that you can give to, number one, the American Muslim community as a whole, and number two, to young American Muslims in particular, in terms of being vigilant and being able to better protect themselves in this environment, what would you say?
Well, the beauty of the religion is the biggest insurance policy known to man. The religion itself is they just follow their religion and stay away from what has already been forbidden to them. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many times I've handled an incident that it was because of drinking, alcohol consumption, whether it be people being, spousal abuse, drunk driving, car accidents, even death. We lost an officer recently because of a drunk driver striking him who was on a alcohol enforcement detail. Yeah, Brother Noah. And the drugs, the drug community, how many times I can tell you from one of my former lieutenants who's now a captain, and he used to be an undercover narcotics officer. He said, Sharif, every time we would interview people who were overdosing on cocaine, heroin, any type of opioids, you know what their number one answer was when we interviewed them? I always started with weed. But look at the culture now that we have. It's so accepted. And it shouldn't be just accepted. It shouldn't be not accepted because it's legal or illegal. Mm-hmm. It's just because that substance is not going to let you live to your God-given potential. Mm-hmm. That's the message we should be telling the youth, not because it's uncool or because it's haram or it's because it's illegal or you could get arrested. These are all things that they're not afraid of anymore. Mm-hmm. It's about exposing them to living up to their God-given potential, that anything is possible and they can achieve so much more without having this as part of their lives. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I would say, I always tell people, double down on your religion. Your religion is protecting you. Follow it, and you won't be dealing with a lot of issues that we're finding nowadays in today's culture. That's number one. But number two, they need to be a little bit more proactive and recognize that they're not just a part of a Muslim community. They're part of a greater community, which includes the police department, the Office of Human Rights, other government agencies that they may not find Muslim affiliated, but because they're a community member living and working and practicing their faith in this community called Montgomery County, they should participate in all of these types of activities. Building relationships with the police. Mimi Hassanein just about a week ago, she brought the police over and just did a barbecue and greet, to break the ice, to get rid of the stigma of the police that they're all bad people, they just want to arrest people. So it's wonderful, and that was supposed to start an ongoing conversation with the parents about the harms of drug use, bullying, cyberbullying, and a host of topics that we should be discussing with parents and kids.
I totally agree with you about the community engagement and community, outreach, especially building relations between the police department and the American Muslim community. That's a very important point. But let me just get back to you on an important point as well. In the incident of Sister Nabra Hassanein, of course, the most recent victim, God bless her soul, for the listeners who were not aware of the case, she was going out with her friends for, the Taraweeh, the late night prayer in Ramadan, and they went out to get some snacks and stuff to eat. And on the way back, unfortunately, they were, hassled by some person who was driving his car, and she fell victim and she was killed in a very tragic incident.
Sure.
Some people will say, maybe we should get better tips in terms of safety tips and clues in terms of, the best time for people to be out, not to be out, young people in particular, how can they be vigilant? How can they look out for things that can be potentially dangerous in terms of time, location, things like that? Are there any particular safety tips you would like to give in this particular regard, Officer Sharif?
Well, timing is everything. During that incident, it was during the month of Ramadan. So it's understandable that a Muslim would be going somewhere to eat really late at night. And we shouldn't be living in a society where we should be afraid that we can't go out at night if we so choose. That's not the type of society we should be living in. But look, harm is out there. If anything, they did the right thing. They were in a group. If they decided to walk together, they walk at night. They walked in a group. Unfortunately, and as I said, I don't know all the details, so it's inappropriate for me to comment about the case itself. But from my understanding, that there was an altercation between the motorist and the group. Maybe not necessarily with her, but with people she was walking with. As a result, something must have happened to trigger him coming after her, after the group. It's my understanding he came out after them with a bat. So clearly he was angry about something. The discussion is that whether or not he targeted them because they were Muslim, and I think there's debate on that, and that's why it's important to give this case time and let the facts come out. And if there's one thing I can say as far as responsibility in the Muslim community, they really do need to wait until the facts come out and the evidence, because we should base it on truth of what really happened. We should withhold judgment because it's destructive in nature. If you prejudge a case, any criminal case and any type of incident like this, it's very, very destructive to be prejudicial when it comes to these types of cases. But as far as answering your questions about what we can do to protect ourselves, I think they already did. They went as a group at night. They walked together. What I would have recommended is that they would have had their cell phones on, and once things appeared to be like it was getting out of control, is to immediately dial 911 and bring the authorities in. I think there was potential that this case could have turned out a little bit better than it turned out had the authorities been notified immediately.
That's an important point. That's important. And Sister Nadia, I know that you founded this group called the Young Leaders Institute. We'll talk about why and how you started this institute, but I want you to specifically, focus on the safety tips and the workshop that you had actually organized with young people in the midst or after this actually tragic and horrific incident, because there was so much trauma and so much fear, and anger and sadness naturally going on in the American Muslim community, and especially among young people. If you can quickly tell us a little bit about Young Leaders Institute, and more importantly, what kind of safety tips and clues did you give young people in this workshop?
Yes, thank you. I will talk about Young Leaders Institute in a minute, but I think it's important because my perspective is a little bit different than our dear brother Sharif in regards to the safety. So when I had organized the active listening session amongst the youth, we had about 100 youth come together. It was pretty split between, it was about 50 sisters and 50 brothers who came together. And I was astonished to find that their perspectives were so different in regards to what had happened and how they felt about the whole incident. And so where the young ladies were very concerned, they were afraid, they were apprehensive, very unsure of what would what would this the upcoming days look like for them in this type of climate, in this hostile environment. The young men had a very different perspective, and they were not as fearful, and they weren't as concerned. And so I had posed questions to them, and the young men, I said, well, if you had an opportunity to go walk to IHOP or McDonald's or wherever it is at 2:00 in the morning, would you do it? And of course, all the young ladies said, no, we would not do it. The young men were like, yeah, no big deal. We have no problem. So there's definitely a huge gap in the ethos. Yes, a huge, right, exactly, between the young lady Muslim sisters and the young Muslim brothers. And so one of the things that I tried to impart to them, and I told, because that group of 15, when they were walking, one of the things that perhaps they should have had their cell phones out. But one of the things that they didn't do is that they did not look out for each other when they were running away from that scene. They kind of took off, and, they didn't realize that they had left one of their sisters behind until they got to the mosque. And again, I don't have all the details on the case, but this was something that was reported, that when they looked around, when they arrived, they said, "Oh, where is Nabra?" So they, at that time, when they were running, away from the scene, they didn't realize that they had left a sister behind. So what I had told the brothers, I said, "Listen, we live in very different times today. You cannot not be aware of your environment and your surroundings." I told them, I said, when you're out at the mall, whether you're in the mall, the airport, the grocery store, the movies, wherever you are, if you see your Muslim sister, make your presence known, because you're not as visible as they are. Go up to them, say salamu alaikum, tell them, "I am here. Is everything okay? Do you need anything?" Because we tend culturally, when we see each other wherever in public, in the store, we kind of avoid each other. We don't look at each other. We don't say salams to each other. We just kind of keep it moving. We don't really acknowledge each other. And this has got to change amongst our community. This is something that we need to move beyond, because it's an issue of safety. And so, this is something that I've really been talking to them about the youth, given their different perspectives. And I'm just hoping that they will, take heed to that advice, because we cannot afford to have another Nabra Hassanain on our, that stain of her murder on our hands. So
absolutely. And also the tragic death of Shadi Najjar. Let's not forget Shadi and his friend, who were also shot in a very tragic incident just about a couple of weeks before Nabra's incident. So it was really one tragic incident after another. This important point you raised, Nadia, about being visibly Muslim, we can call it being visibly Muslim, right? As a woman who is wearing the hijab, like myself and yourself, we're becoming, as one non-Muslim friend told me, easy moving targets. And it becomes very important in this case to really kind of maybe tweak or address certain safety messages specifically geared towards Muslim women. Your thoughts on this particular point, Officer Sharif? Women who are wearing the hijab, the scarf, in the Muslim community becoming very visible and easy moving targets, as one friend said. What could be some of the safety tips for them in particular?
Well, this is the thing. The society has to change to not view the hijab as something abnormal. That's the bottom line. There's really, I mean, off the top of my head, I can't think. But what's more important is that people should not be afraid to wear their hijab. I will say that. People should do whatever it takes to not feel that they should be concerned that if they wear a hijab, that they're more prone to violence towards them. Now, does it happen? Can it happen? Absolutely. But inshallah, the society will change in a given time, in a given period of time. I believe that. I'm optimistic that it will be mainstream at some point.
I can add to that, if you don't mind. What I've told the young ladies is that, you shouldn't be afraid to go outside during the time when, it's appropriate for you to be outside. Don't go outside, at some hour of the night where you don't, no one knows where you are, you're alone. Definitely, do not put yourself in harm's way where there might be an opportunity for there to be some harm. But one of the things that I also tell the youth is that when you are engaged in society, whether it's on the school level, community level, an interfaith level, political level, in any of these areas, you are creating and building the relationships in society, and you're doing good work, that's almost like a safety net for you, because you're going to have friends who are not only within the Muslim community but outside of the Muslim community, who you are going to be connected with, who are going to look out for you and will be a protection for you. So that would be my recommendation.
And also, just to apply common sense, I mean, there's a time and place to be in certain places. Is it a good idea to go down a dark alley by yourself? Absolutely not. But I would say that to anybody, not just a woman wearing a hijab.
Right.
Know your surroundings. Have your cell phone easily accessible. If you're going to go for a walk with somebody else. Carry a flashlight. There's all sorts of common sense things that you can do to protect yourself. Also, modesty is one of those, if you think about it, the hijab is a symbol of modesty. So acting in a modest behavior, there's going to be people out there that are going to approach or try to instigate or try to do something. I would say back off. The best thing to do is back off. Don't engage these people, because you do not know what weapons they're carrying. You do not know what they're capable of doing. You don't know if they just got out of jail. So the best thing to do is be modest about your approach. I would say walk away, and if you feel like you're being threatened, call the authorities. There should be no hesitation to dialing 911 if you feel threatened.
So it seems to me that there are a number of important safety tips here in place in terms of choosing the right location, the right time, the right company, avoiding places that could be of potential danger, calling 911 immediately, having your cell phone with you and ready at all times. These are all very important points. And we'll come back again to discuss all of these points more deeply and in more details with our distinguished guest this morning, right after this commercial break. Stay tuned, please.
Are you ready to go back to get that degree you've always wanted? Is there a young person in your life looking for the right college? Are you ready to transfer to a four-year institution? Well, take a look at today's Marygrove College, a tradition of academic excellence right here, right now in the city of Detroit. Classes start September 5th. There's still time to apply for fall and get scholarships. Don't pass up this opportunity. marygrove.edu. Ahlan bikum fi Marygrove College.
A car accident can change your life in an instant. As a result of a car accident, you may become unemployed. As a result of a car accident, you may need a lot of medical treatment. People think that insurance companies are on their side. Why? Because they're giving them one or two benefits. Are they giving them all the benefits they deserve? How would one know unless you consult with an attorney? Call the law offices of Jumana Kiruz at 248-557-3645. 248-557-3645.
Ziyad brand. Quality products from our family to yours. Ziyad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Donna, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziyad.com. That's www.ziyad.com. Ziyad, quality products from our family to yours.
أسواق زمزم الواقع على 24065 أورشد لك في مدينة فارمington هيلز ترحب بالجالية العربية والكلدانية. تنزيلات كبيرة على عموم المواد الغذائية في يوم الأربعاء من كل أسبوع. لا تنسوا فريش كاري اوت، جميع انواع المعجنات، وايضا صواني الكمبو المشكله والصمون الحار، لحوم حلال الجاليه العربيه والاسلاميه، الملحمه باداره قصاب الجاليه المعروف سلوان جربوع. زوروهم على 24065 اورشد لك في مدينه فارمington هيلز، او اتصلوا بهم على 248-476-0300. اسواق زمزم للمذاقي عنوان لجميع طلباتكم، اتصلوا على 248-476-0300. اسواق زمزم للمعامله الراقية وكرم الضيافة عنوان.
This is Dr. Sahar Khamis. Join me on the third Friday of each month at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be discussing some of the most important current political, economic, and social issues in my program, The Bridge. On Radio Baladi, on America's Voice of the Arabs, WNZK 690 AM and WDMV 700 AM. Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is your host, Dr. Sahar Khamis. We are discussing today a very important and timely topic: preparing and protecting Muslim American youth in the midst of the rising wave of escalating violence and hatred. And with me this morning discussing this important topic are Officer Sharif Hidayat from Montgomery County Police Department in Maryland, and Sister Nadia Hassan, who is the founder of Young Leaders Institute. Nadia, can you please tell us a little bit about Young Leaders Institute? What actually made you create this institute, and link this directly, if you can please, to the current environment? I know that you have been organizing some events, some activities recently, specifically targeted at young Muslim leaders or leaders of the future, I should say. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So I founded Young Leaders Institute in January of 2016, and I left my job. I was working at a nonprofit on the Hill doing political and government work, and I left that job to start this organization because I felt like there was something seriously missing with our youth. We were not cultivating leadership. We were not passing the baton. There was a huge gap between the Muslim youth and our leaders in the Muslim leadership. And I felt that it was imperative to start bridging that gap and start developing and cultivating leadership in our Muslim youth and passing the baton, because what I found with my work with youth over the years is that many of them were hurting. Many of them were having issues, were having problems that they did not know how to solve. They did not know where to go. And I wanted to create a platform where youth can come together and they can talk about whatever issues are on their mind, work through some problems, but at the same time work in developing leadership. And the leadership skills that I seek to empower empower our youth with are primarily in three areas, which is developing the interpersonal skills development, and the conflict resolution and ethical leadership skills. And so it's kind of a combination of training, workshops, and seminars, as well as providing that network for them to come and explore new ideas and talk and get connected. And we've been talking about drugs and addiction, and I truly believe that addiction comes from one of the root causes of addiction is the lack of human interaction and connection. And so I wanted to have a platform that would allow youth to come together and connect. And I have to say that over the last year and a half, the work has been exhilarating, very rewarding, but I'm also horrified by some of the stories that I'm hearing, some of the things that, the stories that the youth are confiding in me, how some of them say that they can't even talk to their parents, they don't have an outlet to work through some of their problems, and as a result, they are turning to mechanisms. They are turning, whether that be drugs, alcohol, they are turning to things in order to numb that pain. And so my approach to helping the youth get over these addictions, and not all of them. I'm not going to say that not all of them have addictions, but I'm just saying that's one of the problems. But just to give them a platform so that they can come together and be connected. And people often think that the opposite of addiction is sobriety, but it really isn't. The opposite of addiction is actually human connection.
Right. But Sister Nadia, if I want to just link this quickly to the idea of what is going on now also in the American Muslim community. I mean, in terms of, like escalating wave of violence and hatred. You had this workshop that we talked about earlier after the tragic death of Sister Nadia Hassan. That was very important outlet for young people to obviously share their fears and emotions and trauma and all of that stuff. But also you had a very important event on Capitol Hill. Can you also comment on that in terms of the importance of preparing our Muslim American youth for the challenges they're facing now?
Yes. So our second annual Capitol Hill Lobby Day was just this past week, and it was a phenomenal event, just as last year's was. So I took about 45 youth to Capitol Hill to advocate for immigration reform and to talk about policies around education. And so prior to us going to Capitol Hill, I had held a Congressional Advocacy training, and within that training, the youth got to choose the issues that were important to them and what it is that they wanted to talk to their elected officials about. And among those issues were DACA, even though, this, and this was not, unlike the Capitol Hill Day last year, this was not just a Muslim a group of youth. We actually had Muslims, and we had non-Muslims, and we had Christians and Jews and people of different ethnicities. So it was a very diverse group. And they came together and they sat down and talked about what is impacting them, what are the issues that are impacting them in their school environment. So this was a group of high school and college students, and DACA was among one of the number one issues that came up for them because of their friends and the people that they went to.
Explain this to our listeners, please. What is DACA? Explain to the listeners.
Yeah, DACA is a program that protects primarily Mexicans who are living in the United States. These are children of undocumented immigrants from being deported back to either Mexico or Latin America. And so what I found amongst this group is that many of them had Mexican friends or undocumented, they call it undocumented immigrants who were, from any of the Latin American countries who they had gone to school with. And so they heard the stories of how they were afraid that they were going to be either separated, the children would be separated from the parents. Sometimes the parents would be deported back to Mexico, and then the children would have to stay here and figure out how to basically survive, how to take care of themselves, how to make money. So they had a lot of friends that they went to school with who were affected by the DACA, which they call the Dreamers Act, by that DACA policy. So they wanted to go to Capitol Hill and talk to their congressmen and senators about this particular issue. Similarly, they also wanted to talk about the Muslim ban, the executive orders that Trump signed, Muslim ban 1.0 and 2.0. And they wanted to talk about that in addition to the House resolution 257, which basically addresses hate crimes, hate incidences, and hate speech. And so these were the issues that they came up with. And what I did is I just made the appointments with them. By the grace of God, I mean, this week was absolutely, if you know what was going on, it was their last week in the House and in the Senate before they went for break. It was virtually almost impossible to get an appointment with an elected officials. But by the grace of God, alhamdulillah, somehow I managed to get a meeting with 4 congressmen and 2 senators.
That must have been a very, very important, amazing experience. But really, let me focus on very quickly, Nadia, if you can tell us the difference between the 3 terms you just used now: hate incidents, hate crimes, hate speech. If you can briefly just tell our listeners who may not be aware of the distinction between these terms.
Yes. So hate speech is basically speech that someone would verbally say out of their mouth that is hateful in nature, but not necessarily violates or breaks the law. It's not a crime. So you can say something like, you are, I don't use vulgar language, but basically saying something to someone that is insultful, hateful. Yeah. So that's hate speech. It doesn't, you say something, but that person did not lay a hand on them, did not strike them, did not use a weapon.
What about
but that hate speech could be a precursor to leading up to a hate incident or a hate crime. And a hate crime, of course, is someone violates the law. They take a bat and hit someone, they use a weapon, they stab someone. But this is all dangerous. Hate speech is dangerous. And there's, oftentimes the issue that the challenges that we're faced with a lot times, being a minority group, is that how do we distinguish between hate speech and free speech? And at what point, where is that defining line where free speech crosses over into hate speech?
Yeah, I got your point, Nadia. Officer Sharif, if we can just make a distinction here for our listeners. Obviously, hate speech is obvious. It's clear, as Sister Nadia explained it. A hate crime is also obvious. What about a hate incident? What is the definition and the distinction between a hate incident and a hate crime?
Well, the hate crime is just like she said. There was a nexus to actually violating the law where the motivation was hate. So, for example, if somebody vandalizes somebody's car, and we just had a recent case that happened, and but left a note referencing their religion and Mecca. So there, and then who in the end, we base it on the eyes of the beholder. So the victim, if the victim believes that was motivated by hatred, then we document it as a hate incident. Now, when we analyze the case itself, if there was also in connection to that incident that there was an actual crime, then we charge the crime, and then we also charge with the racial harassment aspect of it, which was what was motivating this incident was hatred. Hatred of that person's either race, religion, sexual orientation, whatever it may be. So, and then here's the thing. It's a very hard case to prove in court because it takes a jury to decide whether or not it's going to be, and everybody is a product of the sum of their experiences. So what may be perceived as a hate crime towards the victim, in the victim's eyes, may not necessarily be proven beyond a reasonable doubt, which is the threshold that a prosecutor would need to make with a jury.
And that brings me to a very important point, Officer Sharif, which is really in the case of Nadia Hassan. The incident, of course, happened at 4 a.m. When the streets were empty, and yet the incident got labeled or called road rage. And for many American Muslims, they actually said, no, this is, obviously, clearly a hate crime. The girl was wearing the hijab and she's visibly Muslim. Can you comment a little bit on your own thoughts, not necessarily in your capacity as a police officer, but even as a member of the American Muslim community, since you wear both hats?
Right.
If you can just tell us a little bit about, the distinction and why, this particular definition was used, but not the definition or description of a hate crime.
Right. Well, just from handling these types of cases in the past, I can tell you all it takes is one addition or one subtraction of one piece of evidence to change the whole story. We've had a case where a Muslim victim once said that she was a victim of a hate crime because, and it was actually a road rage incident. What ended up happening was that they were at a red light. There was the person that committed the assault, or the suspect at the time, was texting and driving, and the Muslim women that were behind her honked the horn just to get her attention, and say, hey, listen, you're distracted in driving. And then they drove off, and then this lady chased them and doused them with baby oil. And it was in the paper about a year ago, I believe it was, and assaulted them and referenced their religion during the incident. So it looked very clear to law enforcement. It looked very clear to most objective people that, oh my God, these women were targeted because they were wearing hijab and they were Muslim. But come to find out later that when you interview the suspect, or you interview independent witnesses, if the Muslim women gave that suspect the middle finger during an altercation at a red light, you ask anybody, was that because she was targeted because she was a Muslim, or because this was a road rage gone bad and it just so happened she was Muslim? Do you see what I'm saying? It does change the narrative of the incident. And that's why I say we have to be very careful in prejudging. Just because somebody is a Muslim and they're a victim, or they're wearing a hijab and they're a victim, let the facts come out, no matter how ugly they are, because to judge it is equally putting gas on a fire if we don't treat it, approach it with the 100% of the facts. And that's why. So I'm a bit more reserved when it comes to having an opinion about these type of incidents that we're seeing in our community, because I know very well all it takes is one piece of information that was left out or was neglected to be put in. It can make a whole different story. So I say that with sincerity, that to calm the Muslim community as well. Give it time. Have faith in your public institutions, to include the police department. And if there's where there can be proven mischief, hold them accountable. This is your department. This is your government institution. At least bare minimum, give them a fair chance.
Absolutely. I'm afraid we are running out of time, so I just have 1 minute, and I would like to use this 1 minute to thank our listeners and to thank our two guests this morning, Ms. Nadia Hassan and Officer Sharif Hidayat, very active and very important members of our American Muslim community in their own capacities. Officer Sharif Hidayat being a distinguished and honored member of the police department in Montgomery County, Maryland, who received recognitions for his outstanding role, and Sister Nadia Hassan, the founder of Young Leaders Institute and very active community activist. Thank you both very much for being with us this morning and for all you do for the American Muslim community as well.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And thank you, Sister Sahar, and thank you for shedding light on this topic.
Thank you both so much, and thanks so much to all our listeners. Have a blessed and great day. Thank you so much, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
بدأناه معكم وعهدناكم على أن نستمر بمزيد من المتعة والعروض الحصرية على قناتي زي ألوان وزي أفلام. زي ألوان هي أول وأكبر قناة مسلسلات عربية هندية في أمريكا. أضخم الإنتاجات، مسلسلات حصرية، ومع زي أفلام فأنتم على موعد مع مغامرة جديدة كل يوم لاكتشاف سحر بوليوود. تابعوا حصريا قناتي زي ألوان وزي أفلام الآن في أمريكا على ديش نتورك وسلينج تي في.
قشات ميديترينيان ماركت بإدارة سهر قشات وأولاده يرحبون بالجالية العربية والكلدانية. جميع أنواع المواد الغذائية، البان طازجة، الكرزات والبهارات الطازجة. داخل الأسواق مطعم ميديترينيان شيش كباب يقدم يوميا جميع أنواع الكباب، المقبلات العربية العراقية وصواني الكامبو المميزة. تفتح الأسواق من 8 إلى 9 مساء من الاثنين وحتى السبت، ومن 8 صباحا إلى 9 مساء يوم الأحد. تقع الأسواق على 32839 نورث ويسترن هايوي في مدينة فارمينغتون هيلز. لحوم حلال للجالية الإسلامية. لطلباتكم من المطعم كول 248-538-7855. That is 248-538-7855. قشة ميديترينيان ماركت، خدمة متميزة ومعاملة راقية.